Remember when we talked about Roadhouse and
Hmm.
how it was the most streamed movie ever? And it was, they really should have put that in the theater because, wow, imagine what
Hmm.
they would have made. But I was thinking more about that. There's no guarantee that if it had been in the theater, that
Mhm.
every single one of those people would have purchased tickets to go to,
Right.
to go out. Many of them probably would have said, "Oh, I'll wait for it to come to streaming." And I
Some.
feel yeah, some certainly. I mean, some people would have gone out. I don't know if I would have or not, just personally. I can't
Hmm.
say for sure. But I feel like that's part of it too. Like the streaming thing. People are really getting so much more used to being in their homes, watching on their phones or their tablets or
Hmm.
their TVs or whatever. And they're just not as excited or willing to shell out to go to the movie theater.
Yep.
There's there's a few hurdles there for people perhaps when if they're just patient enough, then they
Hmm.
can just watch it at home.
That's the thing, Kat. I mean, you hit on something. Will kind of said, well, you're talking about profitability now, which
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get. But it's not so much the budget level I'm talking about. It's really more what Kat was saying, which is getting rid of reasons people might not go.
Mhm.
People tend to go, well, let's take an established property, a known franchise, and do something with it. Because now you have an established base who are going to rush to the theater to see it.
Mhm.
Well, maybe. But you also have an established base of fans who will be angered by every possible decision you make and give them a reason to boycott. I don't want to see. You've
Oh,
recast. I don't like the
yeah.
angle. Oh, now this is a person of color. Is it whatever you're going to do? If
Yeah.
it isn't exactly what they think it ought to be, that's another reason for them to rail at it.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
something original, at least there's an intrigue there's no barrier of like, well, what's the fan base going to say? There's no fan base.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I make a movie called, The Bricklayer, whatever, like, oh, what is that? Was that the sequel to something? No, it's about a guy that lays bricks. Well, what happens? Well, intrigue. Something happens. You'll have to go to the movie to find out. It's not another X. It's
Yeah.
not like, well, this Raiders of the Lost Ark didn't do blah, 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 blah. No, it's its own damn film. It does different things. Stop being angry about it. So if
Yeah.
it's its own thing, you don't have to go, well, it's different it's not different from anything. It's its own thing.
Mhm.
But granted,
Mhm.
it's a numbers game. I guess they tend to go
Oh,
with a franchise. We'll know these people will go, but then they overshoot the budget and shoot themselves in the foot.
yeah.
I don't know.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
I had the answers, I'd be employed.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think there's a synthesis between your two responses that may be getting close to it. This idea that I remember when we were kids, even when we would have to wait like a year for something to be on VHS, maybe 6 months, but a year certainly when things first started coming out.
yeah,
But as
Yeah.
for sure.
that window tightened up, we did make these decisions. I remember saying these things out loud. I'll wait for it on home video.
Yeah.
You could tell by a trailer in a movie theater, and we'll wait for home video for that one. And
Right.
you make those decisions long in advance of them even coming out in the movie necessarily. But now that those
Mhm.
windows have closed, yeah, people can make those decisions.
Yeah.
I guess they can be more discerning even, and
Mhm.
especially like a Fall Guy, which again was on TV, or streaming now within just 2 weeks. But
Right.
also what John was saying about this idea that creating something that's original enough that people won't want to wait for home theater.
Yeah, because you're going to
Yes.
know about it, and I'm not yet. I'm going to go
Yeah.
see. It's that
Right.
water cooler thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I went to see Fall Guy because Will was like, Fall Guy, like
Don't wait. Yeah, I was like, don't wait.
right. And I'm like, okay, I gotta go. If I had just been on my own and didn't have,
You'd have
this,
waited. Yeah.
yeah, I probably would have waited. Yeah.
Well, and
I don't regret going though, because I'm really glad
right.
I had the
Yeah.
big screen experience because I do love that.
Well, and you say the big screen experience, those two experiences are getting closer. Used to
Yes.
be the theater, and then there was whatever the hell you had at home.
Yes.
Right.
And now the theater is becoming more people on their phones, more people talking, fewer people
Yeah.
in the theater to have that experience. And your home theater is getting bigger screen, surround sound, really nice seating. It's like, the difference is not so I got to see it at the theater or it won't be, high quality. It will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those two are closing in.
Yeah.
Not in my house, though.
No.
Remember,
Okay.
I have to scooch.
Yes, that's right. Any TV can be big if you sit close enough, Kat.
Uh,
So along
so
those,
what?
yeah.
How big is your tube TV, Kat?
Oh, well, no, we got rid of the tube a couple years ago.
You
That
did?
was hilarious.
A
It
couple
fell
of years
apart
ago.
while we were carrying it. Well, maybe more than a couple. It fell apart while we were moving it. That was hilarious.
It's a hazmat site now.
This it's a little bigger than a computer
cleanup.
monitor. Is
A little bigger than a computer monitor.
What, your current TV?
yes.
And John is
Hey. It's like iPad sized.
A couple of iPads. You could fit maybe 4 on there.
John is screen size shaming. John's screen shaming.
You could just cover it with a fig leaf.
That'd be less offensive if you did. Yeah, well, along these lines about getting folks to come out to the theater, and you guys hit on, I think a couple of them, at least, including the fact that make movies that people really want to see and don't want to wait. I did gather some other suggestions from folks, and it's along these lines of what you're saying, making it different enough from your home experience, or at least maybe slightly better or different, I guess.
Like with exclusive popcorn buckets.
Now with fuckable popcorn buckets.
Just say it. Yes.
Just say it. Just say
The
it.
new Muppet movie.
This
Remember
popcorn.
Miss Piggy?
Oh no! Miss Piggy's like,
She's so surprised.
yes, I want to get the surprise Miss Piggy bucket.
I have to tell you guys. My husband was watching this TikTok video on the cost of the refreshments, right? Popcorn, soda. And this guy was giving tips, insider tips on how to get your refreshments for free or cheap or whatever. And one of the suggestions was after, enter the theater, go find a trash can, get out a large popcorn bucket that someone has thrown away. And then you bring that and say, I'd like my refill, please. And we were saying,
my-
no, look for holes first. No.
They refill it. Just why is it coming out of the? Oh no! Or look for holes.
Oh, yes, look for holes.
Your husband was watching it.
Yes.
This one doesn't have a hole.
Here's one of the good ones.
So here's some other suggestions that folks made on the internet, some different articles that I read. Improve the experience, including the cleanliness. They made some comments that some movie theaters are just not up to par. I think most of the theaters in my area have since, in the last few years, certainly since the pandemic, stepped it up a little bit as far as the seating, etc. We do have, most of our theaters have all the theaters have the assigned seating now. Many of them have the reclining seats, not all of them, but they've at least gotten newer seats.
Yeah.
But I imagine there's still theaters around the country and world that aren't even up to that standard. One thing that folks are suggesting in many theaters to bounce back after the pandemic and still maintain some good ticket sales, show older classic films. I don't know. For me, that's like anomalous
Like
or something. That's
Jaws.
just like, well, like Jaws with Richard Dreyfuss.
But without Dreyfus.
Yes. Kids today. I don't know. I guess that doesn't get me to the theater, especially if it's a movie I have at home.
Right.
Better food. So there are some theaters that provide food other than just your chicken fingers and nachos.
Well, there's something around here called the Movie Tavern. It's you go and you can have dinner and watch your movie. It's a restaurant-ish experience.
Look, I'd be for it if as long as there's not a wait staff that comes by during the movie. Is there anything else I can get you? Like, sit down.
I don't need better food. I could use cheaper food. Like if the food was more reasonable, I wouldn't feel the need to smuggle in food when I go to the movies. But I do. I smuggle in a drink. I smuggle in chips.
Your salsa, or your nachos, your salsa, and your cheese.
I have been known to smuggle in nachos. Yeah, seriously, because there's nothing you have on that menu that's worth the $15 you're asking for it.
Fact. Fact. Oh,
Did you ever
That
see that?
is a sack of chips and a little thing of cheese is all that is.
Did you ever see that Nathan Fielder where he I think it was a Nathan For You, that show where he tries to help struggling businesses, right? But he does it in the most ridiculous ways.
No.
And one of them was he had a guy who, like a mom and pop store that was selling chili. Like that was their claim to fame. But it was something like whenever there's a hockey game, then their business drops because people just eat at the hockey. So Nathan made a suit that's filled with chili and had a pump system where it could pump out chili out of one tube in one arm and sour cream out of the other arm. And he would walk through the stadium with this suit that was made to look. He had to get through, he had to get through the screeners. He walked through the stadium, saying to people, "Hey, do you want any chili? I'm selling chili." And then he'd open up his jacket. He had bowls and napkins, and he would squirt it out of his arm. That's John going to the movies. Here's another suggestion. Fewer trailers and start on time. Yeah, I don't know when that happened. It used to be that the movie starts at 7. You got to get there before 7. Now you get there
the
7,
same
it
number of
starts at 7:30.
trailers, but start on time.
Yeah, that's
Right.
yeah.
That's fine. You can start playing them before we get there,
Yeah,
but start the
Absolutely.
movie on time.
Yeah, that seemed to be how it used to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a suggestion. Lynch Nicole Kidman, it says here.
Oh gosh, much like the Calvin, what was it? Wherever that theater was, we do not condone or agree with the sentiment. In-person enhancements like having a live QA, even if it's virtual. Maybe there's you could have a. And finally, make movies worth seeing was a thing. Yeah.
Oh.
That's asking too much.
Which I think, well, it's like what
Quality
you said.
movies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These runaway surprise movies that are huge are usually these outliers. You're right. I think they are. They're quirky and they're different. They're taking a chance. I mean, Barbie and Oppenheimer were big budget movies, so it's not that.
Right. Yeah.
It's that the subject matter, something that catches folks' attention and catches fire like that.
Yeah. Well, I think of like the Late Night with the Devil just a few months ago.
Yeah.
Not a franchise,
Right.
brand new, and I could not wait to go to the theater to see
Me
it.
too. Right.
No part of me was like, I wonder when that's coming out. No, I'm like, what's the release date? I'm getting my tickets. I got to see what they're doing here, you know?
Right. That's it, John. It's that, and I think it was the same with Barbie. I gotta see what they're doing, what folks are talking about.
Yeah. Really compelling. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I want to point out Karen made mention of the pause button as being important. Perhaps a reason why people are staying home, so you can leave the room, go to the bathroom. Easier to do that than leave during the movie in the theater. That is,
Or use your empty cup.
right. Yeah. And actually, Karen reminds me, I was trying to watch a movie with the kids yesterday. What were we going to watch? Fury Road, actually.
Yeah.
And finally, it takes like half hour of wrangling everybody and making popcorn and sitting down.
Oh, yes.
And literally we sit down and I have the remote. Is everybody ready to stay and watch the movie? Everybody has all the snacks and drinks they want. Yes. Yes. I start the movie. Within 2 minutes, I see one of them looking at me like nervous, like I got to say something. So finally I just pause it. All right, what is going on? Is it okay if I just go and get a drink? I remembered I forgot to get it. Oh, yes. And then they all got up. They were waiting for one of them to like break it.
Well, if you're going to go.
Yes. Well, I didn't. One of them was I didn't want to say anything because he looked like he was pissed already. So.
Oh my gosh. Perhaps that's a compelling reason to go to the theater, because people will be far less likely to do all that fussing around, right? You have to be ready and you got to stay if you want to see the movie. There is no pause button.